Hello, my name is M. Jason Graham, and this is Writing. This is Writing is brought to you by mjgstorycreation.com. Go to mjgstorycreation.com and get some free tips on how to turn your idea into an epic story today. So, we continue with our week on adventure and Act 3. And of course, in Act 3, the D is for downfall. So I'm going to move off to the side in a bit, but I did want to discuss, I take joy and pleasure out of torturing my characters in order to make sure that they learn the appropriate lesson. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. And so I would encourage you to create stories where your characters have to sacrifice in order to get it, because that's life, and that's what's going to be relatable to people. With that being said, off to one side, you can see that there is a great deal of red all blocked together in this act. So we'll start at the top. Of course, our fifth bookend. Remember, we had just defeated the bad guy in most cases at the conjunction. And so now everything is kind of looking lovely. And we're kind of proud of ourselves. You know, our protagonist knew that he could do it. And so we come into the next bookend, and there's immediately a problem within the communities. Remember also that there's a flag, a signal at the end of opportunity that states that our journey is not quite over yet. So generally, there is some kind of disconnect that happens with the communities that is emphasized. I was going to use the word exacerbated, but that is quadrupled and multiplied by the character's stumbling block. You really want to use these two, the disconnect from community and the stumbling block, to great effect, because that often happens when we get a couple of victories under our belt. We get a little bit prideful and a little bit too big for our britches, and so maybe we don't need people as much as they think that we need them. But we're wrong, because just when that happens, the antagonist returns, and now everybody, it's not so much about him having lost the resources, but not everybody's on the same page. See, we were all on the same page in Act 2, and that was the reason why we were able to repulse the antagonist. But now the antagonist has had an opportunity to gather his forces and gather his feelings and his thoughts, and he or she returns, and because you're not on the same page with your communities and your foils, a bunch of miscalculations happen that lead to rock bottom. Now, what I like to do with rock bottom is, in this process here, I like to systematically strip the protagonist of every advantage that they have, and then some. My whole thing is, by the time you make it to rock bottom, the protagonist should be in a worse position than they were before the shift occurred in Act 1. That can be pretty difficult to do. You're going to have to come up with some good ambitions, and going to have to come up with some diametrically opposing thought from your foils to get them to abandon, or pretty much abandon, your protagonist. Another thing that generally happens during this time is that the pivotal foil gets killed or captured, which of course deals a critical blow to our protagonist. So now he's at rock bottom, he or she's at rock bottom. They are alone and by themselves. Their face has been dug in the ground. They're on the run. However you want to do it. They're at the bottom of the ocean, and they're by themselves. And so the first thing that happens is they blame heaven. Because when we do that, whenever there's an issue or a problem and we get our face put in the dirt, the first thing that we want to do is blame God or blame somebody else or blame our circumstances. But once the pity party is over, then you move them into finding the mirror, which goes back to their reflection. So then you give them an opportunity to look at themselves and to really evaluate the message. Why did they lose this time? Why were they successful in Act 1 and Act 2, but now they got their butts kicked in Act 3? What happened? And then the next thing that you have to show is them accepting responsibility. Because that's the turning point. Because once you show them accepting responsibility, then of course a plan comes into formulation which needs to be implemented. And that takes us to our sixth bookend, which of course is going to take us to our Act 4, which is evolution. So for Act 3, it's really important to show the foibles, or to show how human your character is. You don't want to have too much of it initiated by the antagonist. You really do want most of the problem to be the protagonist, and you want to make it real and relatable as possible, to where his friends back away, everybody walks away, that kind of situation. So tomorrow we will talk about evolution and accepting responsibility and just what that means. My name is M. Jason Graham, and this is Writing. This is Writing is brought to you by mjgstorycreation.com. Go to mjgstorycreation.com and fill out for a free story evaluation. Get started on turning your idea into an epic story today. I'll see you next time.